again, gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen. Our next event or discussion is on the promoting continental development through Namibian infrastructure and logistics. And I am very happy to moderate this session again with a distinguished panel of gentlemen, as you can see. And we try to just have a little bit of a balance. That's why I'm there. Otherwise, it would have been a whole male affair. So the next topic, of course, is a critical enabler to our developmental objectives. And in order, there are, of course, two parts to this presentation. One is how do we promote continental development through the Namibian infrastructure logistics. I think over the couple of days we have learned, or we know that Namibia is a member of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, the largest free trade agreement in the world, comprising of a population of 1.3 million and a billion people. And that we all know that when an investor comes to Namibia, both domestic or international, their market, their target is not just the 2.5 million Namibians that we are, but the entire continent. So how is it that our infrastructure, how ready is it to be able to assist the development of the continent? And then, of course, we can't develop the continent if our own countries' the domestic infrastructure is not yet developed. Of course, logistics are very key and the heart to our development. You are aware that Namibia has prioritized the logistics sector as one of its enablers for economic growth. It's been prioritized in the both NDP 4s, I think, and NDP 5. And we've made some great strides towards that. So my panel, as you can see, is quite distinguished. We're going to start off with Mr. Shivikwa, a hippie, as we affectionately call him, and he is going to give us a sort of outline of the logistics master plan that Namibia has and the coordinating efforts of the Wellfish Bay Corridor Group. He is, of course, the Chief Executive Officer of the Wellfish Bay Corridor Group. It will then be followed by Dr. Cedric Limbo, who is a Director of Transportation Policy and Regulation in the Ministry of Works and Transport, and he'll give us a regulatory framework that enables the operationalization of all of these initiatives. I will then have a presentation by the Chief Executive Officer of the Trans-Namib Company, Mr. Johnny Smith, and he will give us an update of the initiatives there, as well as the projects that are in the pipeline. I will then end off with a sort of a panel discussion between Mr. Bizi Uirab, the Chief Executive Officer of the Namibia Airports Company, as well as Mr. Andrew Kanime, the CEO of Namport, just asking them a few questions about their mandate, as well as the projects, which of course the investors are very keen to hear about on this logistics infrastructure that Namibia is currently engaged in. I would like to now call upon Mr. Hippie Shivikwa to make his presentation. I have been warned by Margaret that we should finish at 1:30, so I'm going to be very diligent in timekeeping with my panelists. And by the way, happy Africa Day to all 1.3 billion of us on the continent and in the diaspora.
Thank you very much, Dita, and good day to all the participants and all protocol observed. Good day to our fellow panelists. My presentation, basically, I will start with some two introductory slides because I'm told that the Namibian nation is also tuned in, and I just wanted to also bring into context why we need logistics management in Namibia. Basically, also for the youth also to be up to speed because we want to mainstream them and also capacitate them in terms of transportation and logistics. So basically, why do we need logistics or in Namibia or in Africa for that matter? Because logistics is more about the efficient management and the flow of goods between the points of origin to the point of consumption, and where basically, like in a supply chain, where we have got the raw materials that have to go to the manufacturers, then to the distributors, then to the wholesalers, the retailers, and eventually it ends with the end user. So in logistics, there are 7 R's that we look at, and it's basically about the right product, the right quantity, the right condition, the right place, the right time, the right price, and the right customer. So Namibia has got intermodal, multimodal advantages because we've got the maritime ports, we've got the road transportation, good infrastructure. In fact, among the best in Africa, we are number 1 in Africa when it comes to the road transport infrastructure. We have the railways, and then we have the aviation. So basically, it's about logistics, about the planning, organizing, and to support the infrastructure and the information systems in order for us to have efficiency with the imports and the exports. So basically, this slide is about the, sorry, I was not using the right mode, okay. So basically, the context of logistics in Namibia is that we in Africa, we expect economic growth to happen. Africa is developing in various sectors. We have learned with the previous session that agriculture is growing, mining sector is also growing, manufacturing and the construction sectors. So all these sectors, they do need transportation. They also do need logistics. We are supporting regional and international trade. So Namibia is not only based on the infrastructure or utilizing the infrastructure for ourselves, but it's also for our neighbors. And I'll just also bring context into that. We are facilitating transit trade, and it's also expected to increase in and out of our neighboring countries. Intra-Africa trade is very low at this moment, but with the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, we expect intra-Africa trade to increase, where you find more African countries that are trading with one another. There are new enterprises and industries that are emerging. I can just give an example now that Namibia is also poised to become one of the biggest citrus producers in the region. Industrialization is expected to increase. Value addition to the mining commodities, perhaps not only from Namibia, but we may also see some commodities that are coming from the neighboring countries being value added in Namibia. Consumerism is expected to increase. Dita was alluding to a population of 1.3 billion Africans. In Southern Africa alone, we've got over 350 million people. So we're not looking at the population of Namibia per se, of 2.5 million, but we're looking at a bigger picture in Africa. Innovation and technology is expected to increase as well in Africa. Increased investments, that's why we're here, to talk to the various projects and also to give a supporting base for these investments. Yesterday we were hearing about a lot of prospects in terms of the oil discoveries, the gas discoveries, as well as the hydrogen. All these commodities, they would need transport, they will need logistics to be moved from one point to the other. And so therefore, in transport and logistics, basically, we also look at the economies of scale, because the bigger the volumes, the better for us. And all in all, this is expected to contribute to the ease of doing business and also improve the quality of life. Yeah, so just to give a context, some of the participants here were trying to know how we operate as the Corridor Group. Basically, the Corridor Group is a public-private partnership, and it's one of the best models in Namibia in terms of the public-private partnership, where we've got public entities as well as the private sector working together for a common goal. And so basically our mandate is trade facilitation, free flow of trade in Southern Africa, embracing all the modes of transport. And we look at cross-border trade facilitation. We do business development by increasing the volumes of the cargo through our ports and corridors. We look also promote infrastructure development. We create network between the stakeholders. That's why we are also talking to the stakeholders here. We serve as a facilitation center, and we provide wellness services along the corridors. So basically, for Namibia, or for the Corridor Group, we are based in Namibia, in Windhoek, where we are headquartered. But we've got regional offices in Lusaka, in Zambia, in Johannesburg, in the DRC. These are supporting our operations in Namibia. We also have an office or in representation in South America. And we expected to also get into the European markets as well as the Middle East and the Far East. These are basically the markets where most of the commodities, especially the mining raw materials, are moved to. And we are responsible for 4 corridors. Basically, the Trans-Kalahari Corridor, which is linking Namibia, South Africa, and Zimbabwe. We have the Walvis Bay and Ndola Lumumbashi Development Corridor, which is linking Namibia with Zambia, Botswana, northern Botswana, Malawi, and the DRC. We have the Trans-Kunene Corridor, which is linking the Angola with Namibia, and the Trans-Orange Corridor, which is linking the Northern Cape of South Africa with Namibia. So basically, we are the gateway to the west coast of Africa, and we have got international shipping connections to the main economic centers of the world. And in terms of I just want to share some of the key facts here. Transit times through our corridors basically are one of the fastest, and that is also one of the attributes of the logistics, because the logistics must be timely, it must be fast and efficient. And I will not go into the details thereof, but what I need to also share with you is that we are working very closely with the shipping lines, most of the major shipping lines of the world, to consolidate the cargo in and out of our ports. And so basically, we are no longer an alternative trade route, Namibia, but we are becoming a preferred trade route. We have offered dry port facilities to our neighboring countries where they can consolidate their cargo within our port. We are the shorter route to the Americas and Europe. We have got a stable political environment. Safety and security is very good on our corridors. And we have got a growing transport and logistics sector. I think one of the participants will also showcase a startup company later on today, and also share more information about how a Namibian startup company has expanded in terms of its footprint into 7 African countries, if I'm not mistaken. So, just to also give the investors confidence, on our corridors, we have got the safest corridors, as I've indicated, and cargo that is moving on our corridor is free of hijacking and some of these interceptions that are happening on other corridors. I can give you some examples where We have got high-value commodity goods like copper moving in. The moment copper is normally moving with escorts, and the moment these trucks they move into Namibia, they relinquish those escorts, and that's how safe these commodities are in Namibia. Yes, we have been mandated through the National Planning Commission, and I'm pleased to see that the Director General of the National Planning Commission is also here in our midst. He's basically our key custodian, the key custodian of the logistics hub project. Now that slide is basically about the vision of the logistics hub project, and we need to understand that the logistics hub, or positioning Namibia as a logistics hub, is not an overnight function. These things happen over a number of years with a lot of investment and a lot of processes that have to happen. If you look at, for example, if you look at Singapore, Singapore is a city-state with no natural resources, but they have positioned themselves to be one of the best logistics centers in the world. And that is basically our vision, because that is our benchmark. And if you look at also at countries like Dubai, Dubai has transformed within 50 years. And so this is the trajectory that we want to position and catapult Namibia in terms of economic development. There are some of the important elements that are needed for the logistics hub. Efficient ports. We have got very efficient ports, storage operations, and for example, we need to attract more cargo. For example, frozen goods, chicken, fish, and pork from Brazil. But we need to have capacity in order to store some of these goods. Efficient transport network, collection and distribution centers, and cross-border arrangements. So basically, we want to transform from merely transport corridors into economic corridors, and also support the positioning of Namibia as an industrialized economy. Just a reflection that we have got the blessing of Cabinet and Namibian government with respect to the rollout of the logistics hub project. That what you see there is one of the newest ports on earth. Basically, a new container terminal at the port of Walvis Bay. Master Kadima will also delve a bit more into that. So this port is also giving more capacity to the neighboring countries, where we can import and export containers through the new container terminal. We have got efficient transport network, and as you can see, those are some of the new dual carriage highways that were built recently in Namibia. And one of the contractor is also in attendance today, Mr. Kayamo from Otesa, and he's going to also. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay. So we are very proud of some of this infrastructure, and that's why we are continuously being ranked as #1 in Africa. And the railways are also undergoing some transformation in terms of rehabilitation and upgrades. We have been upgrading our airports also to international standards. Basically, most of the infrastructure that we are talking about is commensurate to the traffic that is moving through. Those are some of the terminals that have been upgraded. So we need serious warehousing also in Namibia. So there could be some opportunities for warehousing. I will just run through very quickly through some of these projects, just to let you know that as part of our mandate, we are doing the promotion and marketing of the logistics hub. We are serving as the logistics hub development center, and there are some of the important aspects on terms of landslide connectivity and development. We have got some of the road projects that have been ongoing. I'll not go into the details thereof. We have got also the truck ports that have to be developed along the corridors to accommodate the road users and those ones that are carrying commercial goods. We have some of the rail projects, which Mr. Smith will also delve into. There are some of the aviation projects that Mr. Wirap will also touch on. So basically, there are various projects that are multi-sectorial within the industry that are supporting the logistics hub. But in conclusion, I would just like to say that there are some important considerations that we look at in our sector, basically at the health and the wellness of our road users and those ones. So we provide free of charge medical services to the truck drivers along the corridors. We look also at youth empowerment, women empowerment, SME development, and finally, we are also starting to look at low carbon logistics. I submit for today. Thank you, Dida.
Thank you so much, Hippie. Believe it or not, he condensed the 27 slides in about 12 minutes. So very thank you for keeping to the time. I would like now to call upon Dr. Cedric Limbo to make his presentation on the regulatory framework. Dr. Limbo?
Thank you. We need to adjust this. Thank you. My work has been made easier or difficult, depending the way you look at it, by Mr. Chivikwa. But we are going to only to touch on the regulatory framework. Madam Chair, let me observe the protocol you have established so that we save on time. You earlier on mentioned the issue of the Continental free trade. And before this session, Mr. Mulunga talked about agriculture. Before that, the other Mulunga talked about the gas and so forth. These things will not just move. You need the transport infrastructure. But this transport infrastructure will also not help us if there are no regulatory framework agreement with the member states. Hence, that's our angle when we come as a Ministry of Transport. I'll look at the value proposition. I don't know what happened to my slides. They don't look so nice. That's some of the value proposition, which I'll just run through them. And then after that, then I'll dive into basically the regulatory aspect. Now, when you look at the value proposition which the country is bringing, we talked about the best infrastructure. We have the corridor management. In Namibia, we have 4 corridor management. That's why the aspect of our population size does not matter, because we are looking at the 350 million people in SADC, and of course, the 1.3 billion African market. And we have the issue of the border management. And it's one of the countries where you really can easily move freely without being stopped almost every 30, 40 kilometers. We always make a joke that when you travel from here to Kasombeleza, you only find one roadblock, one police checkpoint in Namibia, and then from there you triple that to 35 when you are traversing through that to Kasubeleza. This I'm mentioning that because in terms of business, it's commercial time. And of course, the issue of the port. Now, I'll not dive into this because Hippie have indicated that in terms of our corridors. But the aspect which I'm indicating is that we have the issue of the MOUs. That makes us very, very competitive because if there are challenges between member states, we are able to use these transport MOUs to unlock some of the challenges. I'll give you one example when we had the COVID. I see the Deputy Minister of Health was here. There were challenges between getting supplies via Botswana and using diplomatic channels were almost impossible because there was nobody in the office through the hard lockdown. But through our MOU, we're able to resolve some of these issues easily. So this transport MOU are able to position Namibia as one of among the top global players in terms of the logistical performance. The other aspect is to try to even make us more competitive. We have already started having the aspect of having the issue of inland hubs, which will eventually go into virtual queuing. So a truck driver obviously does not need to park anywhere in terms of next to the border, but he just goes into inland hubs. And then, of course, before he gets to those inland hubs, he would have logged in. So these are some of the development to make sure that we don't congest our borders unnecessarily. The issue of the single windows, you don't need to carry almost all the documents everywhere, but there is that aspect where you have just one paper which can clear all your goods and have that aspect which is a smooth flow. And the one-stop border post, you don't want to have the same formality this side of the border and you go the other side. And already we are moving to all our neighbors because we have already legislated this aspect. Now, those are the efficiency which I was talking about, that we are really, when we are talking about being a logistical hub, that we have managed to do some of those efficiencies. Now, under aviation, BC will come in, but yes, we have the different almost 8 airports, 2 of them being international, and obviously we are trying to add, because of the Kaza, the Kadima Mlilo Airport, to make sure that we also support the tourism initiative. BC will go into detail. But what I wanted to indicate is that as a country, we are part of the YD now. We deposited our instrument in Senegal. YD means it's easy for us now, for African countries, to move among themselves. So we have opened up our skies. This is one of a major aspect which we have. So when we are doing our bilateral SFC agreement, we are already having some of the more easier instrument to negotiate. We can even indicate now, for an example, the Lufthansa Group are already connecting people from Europe. They'll pick up in Hosea Kutako and take to Vic Falls. These are some of the aspects. But we have a variety range of bilateral SFC agreement almost in all the continents. So there is aspect of code sharing. So investor can come anywhere with very, very little ease to come to Namibia. These are the aspects which I would want to indicate. The other infrastructure part, the CEO will talk about it. The road infrastructure, I don't need to go into that, but it's very, very important because when you are moving, you need to have commercial speed. And what we are doing as a ministry, we want to have all these dual carriages and also some of them bypass to make sure that we don't always go through towns to ensure that there are commercial speed. One of them is the one for the Windhoek, then the Okahanja one. The other one is from the port. You're no longer going between Walvis Bay to Swakop. You are able to bypass that aspect. Now, what does that mean? It means that we are able to, as transporters, achieve commercial speed. That's where we were at some stage, and that's what ended up us being the first in Africa and 23rd in the world. So we are not only benchmarking now in Africa, we are benchmarking with the world. We are 23rd. I know you have smartphone, you can already start Googling. The World Bank report can already give you that answer, confirming our position in the world. Yes, that's how we were rated. For the last 3 years, we maintained that. And the rail sector, Mr. Smith will talk about it, but just to indicate that we are trying to connect now with our neighbors. One of the projects which is will be announced soon is the Trans-Zambezi railway project. We finalized the feasibility study last month. And now, why am I saying that? Because 60% of our volume are coming via Zambia. And Zambia have already, in 2018, already introduced statutory instrument to say that they are moving 30% of the volumes from road to rail. So this becomes a very, very urgent aspect. Yes, we have the TKR, which is us and Botswana. These are some of the discussion which we are trying to look at. And the other part is Trans-Orange, is the aspect in the south, where we have a very, very important neighbor sitting on with a lot of volume of manganism. It's something which we need to have regards to. Now, under maritime, I'll not talk much. Mr. Kadima will come in. But the aspect which I'll bring in here is that those ports, sometimes because of the challenges we get when we are using either road or rail, the issue of continental free trade which we are talking about, we have a MOU under the Merchant Shipping Act that we can take goods into Africa to promote this continental free trade. So this is aspect which we are bringing in from government, the regulatory aspect. Of course, Mr. Kadima will talk about some of the new development at the port, including some of the automated system. Our ports are one of the safest because of some of the Navis system where you look at the risk, the optimal utilization of the port, and so forth. That's why our port are one of efficient ports. So, yes, these are some of the issues which Mr. Kadima will talk about, including the last one which we've been talking about, the LPG terminal, the gas aspect. And then when you have all this, and I'm about to finish, when you have all this, you have the issue of quality, we have the best infrastructure, we are able to achieve commercial speed, that already on its own is efficiency, then it's very, very easy and very, very cost-effective to do business in Namibia. With those, Madam Chair, I thank you.
Thank you once again for providing that oversight as the state, and very happy for the progress that has been made. All right. Next, we're going to have the hardcore infrastructure commercial public enterprises. And of course, you know that these are fairly close to my heart because to the degree to which they are efficient and cost-effective determines the competitiveness of Namibia as a logistic hub. And so, as I'd mentioned earlier, we'll start with Johnny Smith, the CEO of Trans-Namib, which is our rail operator. And he'll give us some insights, their mandate, as well as the projects that they're currently working on, which of course is of great interest to the investors. They'll also give us sort of timelines on how these projects, when they're going to be implemented. So Leon, can I? Yes, Mr. Smith, you're on. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me. My presentation will be quite small, short, so I will cover it from a rail perspective. So just a bit of corporate information. Trans-Namib, as the national rail operator, has got the core service of focusing on rail operations, and then of course we have a property portfolio. We are 100% owned by government. And then we have 4 private-public partnerships that we do have in the form of subsidiaries, which is we are in the hotel business. We own Swakopmund Hotel. Then we own a sleeper factory in the north of Namibia. And then we also own partly a rail construction firm together with a private sector company. So the third element is that, of course, the rail infrastructure in Namibia is owned by government, and then we, as Trans-Namib, is the sole rail operator. Now, some of the key figures for us as a company is that we own about 22 stations across Namibia, and therefore we have quite a vast distribution perspective in terms of serving the logistics industry. We have about 34 locomotives, which is active on a daily basis, about 1,600 wagons to support that. And then our locomotives do about 2.4 million kilometers on an annual basis. And we move freight of more than 1.5 million tons on an annual basis. Our turnover in Namibia dollars is about close to $500 million. And we have assets of more than 3 billion Namibia dollars and a staff complement of about 1,300 employees. So currently we have a 5-year business plan, which we are busy implementing, which is focusing on rail operations, which is of course converted into 4 different strategic objectives. And we're trying to implement this through changing also the culture of the company in terms of changing the way that we do business as a railway company. So just an important slide in terms of how do we see ourselves as part of this initiative of Namibia to become a hydrogen supply base for the global setup. We, of course, in Namibia, through our various stations that we have from the south to the north, east to the west, we can provide that storage space at stations and, of course, transport the hydrogen commodity from point to point, from whether it's now from station to the port for the global village or to just transport it from Namibia to its neighboring countries. Of course, we link to the main 2 ports in Namibia, which is Lüderitz in the south and Morphos Bay to the central west. And currently, of course, we do a lot of fuel for the country, which of course provide that base of the supply chain. Should we then develop further our hydrogen supply base? And of course, we have those connections to the SADC region. So just in terms of a map for the Namibia, the lines that you see, those include the 22 stations that I've covered earlier. And then, of course, the dotted lines are the planned railway lines in terms of projects also mentioned earlier by Dr. Lumbo. So to the north, we have our railway connecting up to the border with Angola. And then to the south, of course, we are connected into the South African railway network. And of course, to the port of Lüderitz, which is also a railway that was open after 18 years. And now it moves the commodity of manganese from South Africa via Namibia to the global market, which is one of the opportunities that we have grabbed as a country in terms of serving the Southern African region, but also to supply the global the global supply chain. So in terms of our short-term strategy as a company, we have just been successful to source funding for our business plan, which is of course close to around about 100 million. If you have to state it in euros, about 100 million euros. And as part of this process for the medium to long term, we will put out 2 tenders, one to remanufacture about 20 locomotives, and then also then acquire about 15 locomotives. So that we will do within the next few months. And this will, of course, help us in terms of our business plan to double our freight volumes. And then, of course, as part of this process, we will also then start services to Grootfontein and Gebabas, which are the connections to Zambia, and then, of course, to Botswana. So the medium to long term is to develop ourselves into a sustainable rail operator, and then, of course, focus on the road to rail strategy, where the railways currently have about the market share of 12%, and we need to move this up to at least about 50% of total transportation within the country. There are also projects, as Dr. Limbo has indicated earlier, PPP projects from a government perspective, where commuter lines needs to be developed, especially from our capital city to the towns to the south, north, and to the airport, and also from the CBD to some of the neighborhoods. And looking at Windhoek as the capital city of Namibia, it's got a population of about approximately 500,000 people. And if you look at most of the cities in Europe, they have about 500,000 to 1 million. So we have already now started as Namibia to look at similar initiatives where in the medium to long term that can support our railway infrastructure in terms of commuter lines within the city of Windhoek. Then we are focusing on a strategic project, of course, through the support of government to upgrade our rail to the SADC standards, and then providing those linkages to the neighboring countries. And this is where we need the private sector to come and support us in terms of providing those linkages to the neighboring countries, because those two linkages, each of them are approximately 600 to 700 kilometers that needs to be completed on both sides between Namibia and our neighboring countries. So quite big projects that we have installed in terms of the railway infrastructure. And this is my story for today. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Johnny, for the presentation. Very brief and concise. And you will join us for the questions later on. I would like to call upon either Mr. Wirab or Mr. Kanime. Maybe you can put them on, if you can. Leon, you can transfer us to them. All right, thank you. All right. So to Mr., I think I'll start with Mr. Kanime. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Mr. Kanime, I just wanted to...
But you sound a little bit far. I don't know whether you need to move closer to the mic.
What about now?
Much better.
Much better? Okay, thank you. All right. Thank you, Mr. Kanime, once again. And I think I have 3 questions for you. The first one was basically to understand your mandate and how you enhance the promotion of continental development. Your mandate and how you enhance the mandate of continental development.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator, for that question. Basically, the Namibian Ports Authority, it's also a public enterprise. It's obviously a creation of statute as well. Primarily, Our mandate is really we have got the exclusive mandate to obviously develop and manage ports in Namibia, obviously including all facilities that are related to the management of a port, also including the management of the lighthouses in Namibia. We, as indicated earlier, I think in one of the presentations, we currently responsible for managing 2 ports, basically the port of Walvis Bay, which is on the west coast of Africa, and also the second one, the port of Ludretz, which is on the south and west coast of Africa. Now, how do we obviously promote continental trade? We absolutely play a critical role, although if you look at the law, our mandate is basically to provide facilities and infrastructure. We see our mandate is much, much broader than that. We actually play a critical role in terms of facilitating trade and also facilitating economic growth. We actually serve as a critical link, not only for Namibia, but also for the region, as it's through us that we are actually able to link both Namibia and the region to international markets. And therefore really playing that critical role in terms of being a local economy anchor and so on. Now, we play a critical role also in terms of contributing to continental development, because when we develop infrastructure, we do not just take into consideration our own requirements for Namibia, but we also take into consideration the need for us to contribute to regional economic integration, especially for our neighboring countries that are landlocked, that do not have access to sea. More specifically, when we look at our neighbors of Botswana, Zimbabwe, Zambia, DRC, and the like, we have actually gone further and allocated them also pieces of land within the ports of Walvis Bay, as I said, really to facilitate trade and also contribute to regional economic integration. Also, in as much as we see ourselves as a regional economic integrator and a local economic anchor, we have also an aspiration, obviously, to become a regional transshipment hub, serving also other countries along the west coast of Africa. And this is really the reason why recently, to be more specific, in 2019, we commissioned a new container terminal, a state-of-the-art facility that has enabled us actually to double our container handling capacity from a previous capacity of 350,000 TEU per annum to the current capacity of 750,000 TEUs. Now, looking at Namibia, we have a very small a captive market. And if we were to only rely on Namibian economic activities, or even regional economic activities, we might not necessarily be able actually to fill up that particular capacity. Hence, that aspiration of ours also to serve as a regional transshipment hub, where mainliners obviously are able to call directly from key major centers to the port of Walvis Bay. And then smaller feeder vessels can obviously then pick up cargo from the port of Walvis Bay to the rest of other countries that might also have access to the sea. And therefore, as indicated earlier, really, as far as our port master plan is concerned, especially with specific reference to development of infrastructure, we look at the bigger picture. We look at how best we can contribute actually to the implementation of the continental economic integration and so on. Hence, I think I can say at the moment we have sufficient capacity to handle both containerized cargo and non-containerized cargo to be able to service and actually meet trade requirements for landlocked neighbors, but then also other, as I indicated, countries along the west coast of Africa.
Can I ask you that?
And it's also obviously gratifying to note some of the proposed plans, especially having listened to the presentation of Trans-Namib, because we can have state-of-the-art infrastructure at the port, but if we do not have capacity transport linkages into the region more specifically, we might not necessarily be able to play that role and mandate. Madam Moderator, I think let me end there for now.
All right, thank you so much. I wanted to ask you the second question, which is, of course, we are here at the Namibian House in Davos to primarily showcase our green hydrogen potential.
I can't hear you, Madam Moderator.
Okay, I said, as you know, we are here in Davos to primarily showcase our green hydrogen potential. What is NAMPORT doing to try to seize these opportunities?
Yeah, thank you very much for that great question. Obviously, as NAMPORT, we have a very, very critical role to play as far as actualization of that dream is concerned. Because obviously being amongst the top nations in the world that have got abundant resources to contribute to the production of hydrogen, we need to set up ourselves, obviously, to be able to ensure that the green hydrogen that is actually produced in Namibia can seamlessly be exported to other countries in the world, more especially, obviously, because, as indicated, it's green energy that will be able to produce. As you might know, obviously, this resource is specifically based in southern Namibia, where our port of Lüderitz obviously is also located. Of course, we do have capacity limitations as far as the current port of Lüderitz is concerned. The water depth there is quite shallow. We also actually do not have sufficient land. But in terms of our port master plan, we have made provision, obviously, for the development of a new port, known, obviously, as Angra Point. We are keenly following, especially the development of this particular industry, and in fact, working hand in hand with Hyphen, an outfit that is working with the government of the Republic of Namibia, obviously, to ensure the actual development and production, ultimate production of green hydrogen. I'm saying we're following keenly because, as I indicated, our port master plan already makes provision for that, and as soon as significant progress has been attained in terms of reaching financial closure for the development of green hydrogen, we would then obviously also be ready to ensure that the necessary infrastructure, more specifically the development of the new port, is actually developed. The site has actually already been identified. We did previously carry out environmental impact assessment studies, although the studies that were carried out previously were more focused specifically with reference to handling of some of the minor ore, such as especially manganese, that originate from the Northern Cape of South Africa. We have activated the environmental or broadened, obviously, the environmental impact assessment study in order to ensure that it actually provides for green hydrogen. As indicated earlier, we have got the exclusive mandate to develop port infrastructure. But of course, as part of our business model, we do reach out to the private sector. And this is one of the flagship projects, for example, where we are looking at collaborating with the private sector to ensure actual development of the port, which basically means that while, for example, we might not necessarily have the necessary resources, maybe to get that particular development off the ground, we are definitely reaching out to the private sector to partner with us in order to ensure that the new port at Angra Point is actually developed. Also, apart obviously from the port of Lutretz, again, as far as the port of Walvis Bay is concerned, we have also made sufficient provision in our port master plan for the development again of the green hydrogen export terminal. So basically, we're looking at having these two terminals, both at the port of Lutretz and also at the port of Walvis Bay. And as a matter of fact, we have already allocated a piece of land to an outfit here at the port of Walvis Bay that is currently exploring. In fact, it's in the advanced plan of putting up a pilot green hydrogen production plant. But apart from that, as I said, we have made provision for sufficient land. Other investors and players that are interested, obviously, to come and play in this space as well, are also welcome, obviously, to approach us in order to ensure that we can enter into collaboration opportunities to actualize the dream of setting up Namibia as a key supplier of green hydrogen. I think the only assurance that I can provide really to the audience here is to indicate that we have got our ducks in the row. We are doing everything possible and have done everything possible in order to ensure that as and when Namibia is ready to export green hydrogen, we'll be there with them, specifically Lutretz. And as I said,
yes.
For Walvis Bay, we have already taken that step.
Right. Thank you. Tate Kadima, thank you for that. I want to switch over to Mr. Wirab. Busy? Can you hear me?
Yes, Madam. Good morning. I can hear you.
Very good. If you can just switch the camera to Mr. Wirab. Leon, are you able to do that? Who? Margaret? Oh, Margaret, are you able to change the camera to Mr. Wirab, please? Give me a second. Mr. Wirab, can you hear me? Busy?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes,
thank you.
Thank you.
I can hear you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I think to complete our puzzle of our logistics hub, of course, our airports company is really, really crucial. I just want to ask you if you can assist us with the audience. What is your mandate and how are you contributing to the continental developmental objectives? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Madam, the director of these proceedings. I'm happy to be here to share the work of the Namibia Airports Company with the participants of this esteemed seminar. The Namibian Airports Company is also a public enterprise, 100% owned by the government of the Republic of Namibia. In our mandate, we have 8 airports that are under our control, and these airports are located all across the country. We have 2 airports in Windhoek, which is the capital city of Namibia, of which one of them is the flagship international airport, the Jose Gutako Airport. And then we have 3 airports in the northern part of our country, one on the extreme northeastern part, which is the Kadima Mourinho Airport, that links Namibia with Botswana, Zimbabwe, Zambia, and to some extent Angola. And then we have the Rundu Airport, also in the northeastern part of the country, and then the Andimba Trevia Airport in Ndangwa. We also have an international airport at the coast in Walfish Bay, at the west coast, and then another airport in Lutherits, and of course in the southern part of the country, Keetmanshoop Airport. The main aim of all these airports is really to facilitate movement of people in and out of our country, but also to connect people within the country to move from one area to the other area. We know that Namibia is quite a vast country. You travel thousands or hundreds of kilometers to move from one town to the other or from one region to the other region. Therefore, the airports provide a very efficient way of people moving from one area to the other. We also are very critical connector for our tourists. Namibia is known to be a tourist country, tourist hub, where many visitors from all over the world come and visit our renowned desert, the Namib Desert and the Kalahari Deserts, our game parks, the Etosha Game Park, and other very interesting areas. We also facilitate movement of business people who move in and out of our country, but also within the country. And lately, with the discovery of oil along our coast, the talk about green hydrogen, obviously our airports will become very significant to ensure that these passengers come in and out of our country very safely. We have a commitment to ensure that our airports are managed in a very safe and secure way, because that is what airports are all about, is to provide a very pleasant experience to our travelers where they really feel safe and secure. It is through our airports that we link Namibia with some of the key regional hubs in Southern Africa. For example, we connect directly to Johannesburg and Cape Town on a daily basis, both from Windhoek and from Walfish Bay. And we also connect Namibia with Europe on a daily basis again through Eurowings, which is a subsidiary of Lufthansa, into Frankfurt, and then of course the rest of the world. We do also connect people with East Africa through Addis Ababa, Ethiopian Airways, and then linking with the rest of the world. We are in advanced stage to engage with Qatar Airways, who will be coming to Namibia as from the 25th of June, again to link Namibia with Middle East and again with the rest of the world. We have recently also started connecting flights to Vic Falls, where Eurowings come into Windhoek in the mornings, and 3 days a week they go into Zimbabwe, Vic Falls, to connect with tourists there and then bring them back to Windhoek, and then to fly out of Windhoek to Europe. So the idea of the airports company really, and the mandate, is to ensure that people have seamless traveling in and out of the country, but also within the country. We are very well known for safety road network, Namibia being Africa's top ranked country in terms of road networks. We facilitate movement of tourists, as I said. Tourists fly into Windhoek mainly, and then they rent their cars, and then they do self-drive throughout the whole of Namibia. As it has been said by my previous colleagues, Namibia is quite safe and secure for people to travel. Therefore, we ensure that the various modes of transport do connect with each other. Now, we have recently been of great assistance to the people who are doing exploration works in the ocean in terms of the oil along the southern coast of our country. And our airport in Lutherits has become extremely important for the operations there, in that we have facilitated for them to move in and out of our airports any time of the day and night, to ensure that the drilling works is become successful. And indeed, we feel that we have made significant contribution to ensure that we are at the place where we can now freely announce that our country has discovered oil, and of course, going forward, we will ensure that we become close partners with those who will be exploring and drilling that oil. The same will apply to the people who are working on the green hydrogen projects. Our airports will facilitate their movement in and out of the regions where green hydrogen will be explored and developed. And we can only assure the business people who are coming to Namibia for these key projects that they have a very good partner in the Namibian Airports Company that will ensure that they fly into Namibia, and that within the country they will be provided facilities that would enable them to move in and out of the country and the different towns.
Right.
Thank you for now.
Thank you so much. Tatewirab, are you able to maybe just give us an outline of the projects that are in the pipeline right now with the airports company, especially for interest of our investors that are listening or those that are present? If you could just give us that list of pipeline projects that the airports company has. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Namibia is a developing nation, and we continuously improve our infrastructure where we need to improve, and of course develop new infrastructure where we need to develop new infrastructure. We have a couple of projects that are being planned for implementation at the airports company, one of which is the development of a modern international terminal at the Jose Kutako International Airport, which is our flagship airport in Windhoek. We have started to prepare for this project. We anticipate this project to cost us about 4 billion Namibian dollars, and it will be a terminal that will be fitted with the latest facilities, and it will basically be an international terminal to assure our travelers that they can have state-of-the-art facilities, that they will have an experience that is not to be forgotten, a true Namibian African experience. So that is a project. We anticipate that project to be started in the next 24 months or so that by the year 2030 we should have this project up and running. We have recently upgraded the old terminal to ensure that for the next 8 or so years we can still be able to facilitate movement of passengers through this terminal. But again, as the numbers are growing, this terminal will not last us beyond the next 5 to 6 years. That is why it's important for us to start a new project. The second key project that we'll be looking at is the improvement and development of our airport at the Kadima Mulilo Airport, which is on the northeastern part of our country. This airport is particularly critical to connect tourists that are traveling between Namibia, Zimbabwe, Zambia, and of course the rest of the southern country. It is ideally located because it is where 4 countries meet. There are a lot of tourist attractions around that part of the country, and tourists will fly into Kadima Mulilo, and then again, as I've indicated earlier on, they will do self-drive adventures throughout Namibia, but also into Zimbabwe, Zambia, and other parts of our Southern African region. That is why it is absolutely necessary for the investors to take note of this very important development that will be coming up to develop this airport. This airport is currently a very small airport, and it will require significant investment, and we anticipate to get that started also within the next 36 months or so. The other important project that we'll be looking at is the Walvis Bay International Airport. It is currently an international airport that particularly deals with passenger movement, but Walvis Bay is also known for its excellent fisheries activities. That is where we have a lot of fishing companies, and all these fishing companies are exporting their products primarily to Europe and to other parts of the world. And currently, the fish either goes by sea, or some of it is transported to Windhoek or Johannesburg and transported from there by air. It is our intention to develop a cargo terminal at Walvis Bay to make sure that the fish products are caught, and while they are still fresh, transported out of Walvis Bay to its final destinations, to Europe, to Far East, and other parts of the world. It is also in Walvis Bay where there is a lot of marine activities taking place. There is ship repair works taking place. There is also other mining activities taking place at Walvis Bay. For example, we have at least 2 active uranium mines working there. And through this international airport, we want to anticipate that some of the fast-moving, high-value commodities should come through these airports to ensure that works do not get delayed. Some parts for maritime mechanical works, but also for mining would then come through these airports. As we talk about green hydrogen and oil finds in the southern part of our country, it is also our plans to improve the standard of our airports in the southern part of our country, particularly at Lutritz, to ensure that people can fly in directly into that part of our country to have access to do these big projects that are ongoing. So we also plan to facilitate some development at the port of Lutritz. We have a very big airport in Keetmanshoop, where we have one of the best runways in the country. The terminal building is in excellent state, but because of our low volumes, that airport is not very active. And we would like to invite our investors to consider putting up a aviation training school at that airport. It's open skies, excellent runway, beautiful facilities. So it would be great for people to come and put up an aviation training school so that we can train Namibians in the area of aviation, various areas of aviation, but also open it up for the rest of Africa and the world to come and train our young people who want to become experts in the area of aviation. So I submit, Madam Moderator.
Thank you so much. Perfect timing, because we have 9 minutes left, and I still want to hear from Mr. Kadima regarding the projects that are in the pipeline there. Thank you so much, Mr. Wirab. Very, very comprehensive list of projects there. Mr. Kadima, are you able to assist us with your pipeline of projects that are underway? You've mentioned the ports master plan many times, and we just want to hear what you have in store there. I just want to remind you, we have 8 minutes left before this session ends.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. I think the very first one, really, I made specific reference to the development of green hydrogen export terminal, both in the port of Lutritz and in the port of Walvis Bay. Those are two distinct projects on which we are prepared to collaborate with the private sector as far as development is concerned. Lutritz, for example, as I indicated, we are looking at development of a completely new port, and hence definitely one of those areas where private sector participation would actually be required. While, for example, your solar parks and wind parks will probably be inland or offshore, you will still require specific facilities within the port. Your quay wall, for example, your pipelines, and some of the common user facilities, such as your desalination plant, that we would obviously require within the port of Lutritz. So Lutritz does provide quite a number of opportunities for collaboration with the private sector. Similarly, also in Walvis Bay, as I said, again, there is a need for us to specifically look at the development of the terminal, but there is also a need to put up liquid bulk warehousing facilities and storage facilities. And hence, definitely topping the list is green hydrogen project in the two ports. The other project, obviously, is my colleague made specific reference to the fact that Walvis Bay is also a hub where we carry out ship repair activities. And in fact, over the last couple of years, Walvis Bay has positioned itself as a port of choice when it obviously comes to vessel repairs and also oil rig repairs. At the moment, we do have facilities that obviously enables us to repair oil rigs and vessels. However, the facilities that we actually have do not provide us with sufficient capacity to handle the various vessels that are available, not only for oil and gas exploration activities, for example, along the west coast of Africa, but even closer to home, our offshore diamond mining vessels, for example, we're not, for example, able to dock them at the port of Walvis Bay because of lack of capacity. So one of the provisions that we've made in our port master plan is really the development of a bigger facility. More specifically, we are looking at the development of a graving dock, which is a facility that will enable us obviously to dock and then be able to work on much bigger vessels. So that is the second project. Thirdly, perhaps what I did not mention when I made reference to the development and the commissioning of the new container terminal at the port of Walvis Bay, we also commissioned, obviously, a passenger liner terminal at the port. And at the moment, we do actually have a number of passenger liner vessels that are actually calling at the port of Walvis Bay. But we believe that as part of our contribution, obviously, to the tourism industry, there is also a need to develop a formal waterfront project or development at the port to cater for both, whether it's business, residential, or leisure properties, activities, and so on. So that is also another area, obviously, that is available, because what we have at the moment is really an informal waterfront, and it's one of those areas that we obviously need to take to the next level. And might be another project again, you see, with the move towards ensuring more green energy and preservation of the environment. There's also a definite need, obviously, for the use of both LPG and LNG. We believe there is a market for LPG and LNG, not only for Namibia, but again, specifically for the hinterland market of our landlocked neighboring countries. And we have also made provision in our master plan for the development of LPG, LNG terminal, and hence those are opportunities again that are available for the private sector to join hands with us. Our business model is such that in as much as, while our focus is primarily to ensure that we develop port facilities, infrastructure, we work hand in hand with the private sector to ensure that the management of most of these terminals, whether it's the LPG or LNG terminal, for example, it is an area that we require, obviously, the private sector, obviously, to come in. I think those would be the four critical projects that I would highlight: green hydrogen project, ship and rig repair facility, waterfront development, and then, of course, the development of an LPG stroke LNG terminal, taking into consideration that our target market is not just Namibia, but also then the hinterland market.
Thank you. Maybe just a few words on the single window. How far are you with that initiative?
Yes, you might recall that obviously last year we issued an expression of interest document through the NIPDB, and the objective was really to ascertain market interest as far as the development of this particular project is concerned. We have taken a decision together with the government, obviously, to proceed this particular project to the second stage of the procurement. We are finalizing a request for proposal documents, which we definitely hope to be issuing to the market over the next 3 to 4 weeks. And therefore, really, I think potential operators can obviously look forward to us issuing an RFP document over the next 3 to 4 to 4 weeks and so on. It is a project that we envisage the development will take place over a period of 3 years, because what we are looking at, although we are a port, the development and the implementation of the national single window is looking at us providing a complete one-stop shop for the whole country. And there are a number of modules, obviously, that we are then looking at developing over different phases. Obviously, one of the a key module or component of the national single window is what we obviously call the maritime single window. And then there will also be a cross-border single window. So suffice really to say it's a project that will take place that will be implemented over a period of 3 years, and maybe in the next 3 to 4 weeks, we should be getting to the market with a detailed RFP. And the idea is definitely to ensure that the successful bidder is then selected during the course of this year still.
Very good. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, it is 1:31. Margaret was just here hinting. Let me take this opportunity to really thank all my speakers for a wonderful disposition. I think we all have greater insights into their mandates and how they're powering and the development of our continental objectives, as well as then the projects that are at hand, particularly for investors to consider. Let me thank, they're all there, the list is there. Busy, Johnny, Hippie, Dr. Limbo, and who else have I? And Mr. Kadima, of course. On that note, thank you once again for your participation. It's a pity we don't have time for Q&A, but of course I can always assist to find those answers should you have them. I'm not going to stand between you and your lunch any longer, and I wish you a wonderful afternoon and see you later. What time? 2 o'clock? Oh? In 30 minutes. Yes, so our lunch is very short, so we hope to see you back here at 2 o'clock. Thank you.